Hi there, today I am going to be showing you around my new Russian T28 tanks. The T28 was the first real medium tank ever built, or at least ever put into mass production. This is pretty much the standard medium tank of the Russian army. There weren't a huge amount of them, but they were certainly numerous. Most of the Russian army was light tanks, as most armies were. This was an attempt to make a medium tank for supporting infantry against set bunkers and pillboxes. Russian military doctrine at the period running up to the war was that Russia would be invading countries continuously. That was their overall military plans. And so they built a lot of odd-looking tanks which were designed entirely to go up against entrenched infantry, bunkers and things like that. The T26 fitted that niche absolutely perfectly. They also designed the T25 as well, T35, which was a 5-turreted tank, whereas this one's only got 3 turrets. The Finns called it the three-headed dragon, or Stalin's three-headed dragon, which shows you what the Finns thought about it. They didn't really like them very much, they were quite scary. As the war progressed, the Soviet Union found itself on the defensive, and so a tank designed to attack entrenched troops isn't very useful. When you're defending, you need a lighter tank that can manoeuvre and move around the rear of the enemy, move around your own lines and be rushed from one place to another, and this certainly did not fit that niche. This tank really was outdated by the time the Germans launched Operation Barbarossa. However, they were committed en masse during Barbarossa, and most of them were knocked out by the Germans, unlike the T-35s, where most of them actually broke down and were abandoned by their crews. These were slightly more mechanically reliable, but not too much. It is an interesting tank because it's the tank that led to the design of much bigger, better tanks like the KV and even elements of the T-34, which has elements of this and elements of the lighter BT series. So this is the basic T28. It's fitted with 4 machine guns. It's got a machine gun mounted in the hull at the front. It's got a machine gun mounted in the turret just there next to the main gun, and it's got 2 small turrets at the front which have movable machine guns in them, so it can put down one hell of a lot of fire against enemy infantry. Its main gun is a 76.2mm howitzer, which is ideal for blasting masonry, blowing up buildings, blowing up bunkers and all that sort of stuff. That's what it was designed to do. The whole idea of this tank was to break through a strongly fortified enemy position, and thusly it had very, very strong armour for its day, and around about 80mm in some places, which made it a pretty effective tank. Basically hardly anything could take this thing out. In bolt action, I think you need a roll of a 5 or a 6 just to stand a chance of penetrating. So if you get a 6, you actually penetrate it. If you get a 5, you're going to have to roll really high in order to do any damage to it, and you won't be able to knock it out. So it's pretty scary for bolt action. If you're using it for bolt action, it's a terrifying tank. There was actually an attempt to up-armour them even further, to raise the armour to 100mm on the front and 120mm on the turret. However, that made the tank just too heavy to move, so they gave up with it. But there was an attempt to up-armour it as the war progressed. Finally, the last of the tanks broke down or were knocked out, and Russia didn't see a need of making any more. What they needed was a fast medium tank that could be used both defensively and offensively, and this is about as useful defending as a pillbox. So, you know, it's handy if you dig it in, but really you need something faster and more mobile. However, if you imagine something like this trundling towards you in your trenches, if you're up in Finland or Latvia, and you see something like this trundling towards you, you're pretty much stuffed, because all you've got is a 25mm Bofors. You're in trouble. So yeah, cool tank. Awesome for the Russian army when it's attacking, not much good in defence. I should mention a few other points about it. For the rules, it's basically classed as a medium tank, so it's equivalent to a T34 or Panzer IV, something like that. Although early war, that makes it a very powerful tank, because there weren't any heavy tanks around at the beginning of the war. So if you're playing Russians, then this gives you a large bonus playing a game, because they're the heaviest tanks you're going to see on a battlefield. As I say, it was roughly equivalent to a Matilda, roughly, a British Matilda. The 76mm gun only didn't fire armor-piercing rounds. It fired a type of AP which only penetrated bunkers, so not that good against a tank. But you do get penetration value because it's a howitzer, and howitzers do get a low penetration value. So it can take on enemy tanks, but I wouldn't advise it. So if you're going to field these in your bolt-action armies, then they are going to be a really, really heavy-duty tank, which is going to scare whoever you're fighting against. I am very much looking forward to getting some Finns, so I can see how these guys fight against the Finns. That would be quite an interesting battle to do. Against the Japanese, I think the Japanese might run rings around these guys. They are rather slow and pretty much a big sitting duck. It's pretty easy to hit one of these things, because actually it's hard to miss it. It's basically a barn. It's got a high silhouette, it sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's basically going to be a anti-tank gun magnet. So there we are. They're the tanks. These are. I've only made 4 of them. I'm not planning on making any more. It's been quite stressful making the 4, to be honest. Russians use tank platoons of 3 tanks, so that would make a tank platoon. That would be a spare tank. However, what I'm planning to do is just some T35s, and the T35 was used 1 T35 backed up by 2 T26s. Sorry, 2 T28s. Getting confused now. So 2 of these would back up a T35, which would give me 2 heavy tank platoons, basically. That's what I'm working towards. But you can also use them as a group of tanks, as a platoon of 3 tanks, or you can intersperse them with infantry, which is a way they were also used. So you could have 1 tank, or 1 or 2 tanks given to each infantry company. That's also how the Russians used to use them if they weren't using tanks en masse. So that's about it. I hope this has been an interesting video to watch, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. Please click like and leave any comments in the comments bar. I'll be making a lot more things like this if you like them. And subscribe, because the more subscribers I get, the happier I feel. So, there we go. Thank you very much for watching for once and for all. This has been Vespasian. Goodbye and thank you.